Welcome to the SaaS Backwards Podcast, where we reverse engineer the success of fast-growing SaaS firms and explore strategies CMOs and CEOs are using to drive their businesses forward.
Welcome to SaaS Backwards, a podcast that helps SaaS CMOs and CEOs to accelerate growth and enhance profitability. We take a look at what's working for growing SaaS companies, what didn't work, and why. Our guest today is serial marketing leader Neil Wu Becker. Today we'll be talking about his role leading marketing at Behavox, an AI-powered enterprise risk and compliance software that focuses on the financial sector. Hey, Neil, welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here, Ken. How are you today?
Excellent. Thank you. Before we dig into Behavox, Neil, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into the role you're in today?
Yeah, I came out of college in my whole life, frankly, wanting to be a sports journalist. I went into sports journalism. I'm out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, so did some stints at the San Francisco Chronicle, the Oakland Tribune, also Newsday, New York, which was the fifth largest paper at the time. So I was on both coasts doing journalism, but I was also in the Bay Area at the time when the inertia was pulling everyone of my age into Silicon Valley because it was starting to grow tremendously. And this was during the dot-com boom in the 90s. I actually left journalism. It's an industry that eats its young, especially when you're in your 20s like I was. I went to work for some smaller tech companies to start, but between then and now, I've essentially been at small, mid, and large cap public companies, been at Dow Jones Components and bellwether stock companies in the tech sector. But I've also been at pre-IPOs and small startups where they're just starting to become embryonic and grow at scale. Today, I find myself, as you mentioned, as the CMO at Behavox. I've done jobs in PR, in Marcom, in corporate marketing, and then running marketing organizations as a whole, which is what I've been doing in the past few stints. So now I'm at Behavox, which is a small company that is growing like a weed. I'm happy to put my fingers on the pulse and help it grow as well.
That's great. I guess when we talked, you were post-funding at Behavox, right? So the company has done some successful money raise. And I think that's where I really want to start. A successful fundraise is a real step change event for many organizations. And how marketing leadership takes the reins, I think, is pretty important to our listeners and the folks we want to reach. So I'm just wondering if you can share with us your view of generally that proposition and how you're approaching that at Behavox.
Ken, it might help if I give you a quick background just on the funding part, because I think Behavox is fortunate in many cases. A lot of the companies I've seen or have been at that are in similar stage or size, they'll get what I would call incremental raises, your Series A, B, C, D, Es. That here's 8 million, here's 12 million, here's 10 million. Maybe you get lucky and get 15. This was a $100 million drop by SoftBank last February 2020 that came in. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, the second investment they made in VF2, Vision Fund 2. So Vision Fund 1 was, for better or worse, spotlighted by WeWork and Uber and all their investments in those types of brands. This one went strongly toward AI and artificial intelligence-based companies, doubling down in that sector. So we were the second firm they invested in. The $100 million is significant because, of course, it's a lot of money, and it allows the company, not just us in marketing, but the company to bulk hire, to bulk plan, to bulk invest, to bulk innovate, everything. And then also to ramp up in marketing how we start to attack the market as well, or invade the market per se. So it gave us a good opportunity to do a lot of things that you would normally wait over a few years' time cumulatively over a series of incremental rounds to be able to go blast off in one shot. Our goal is not to have the traditional A, B, C, D, E rounds. This allows us to be a little more careful with how many rounds we inevitably need on our road to potential public offering. Now, what that has done for us in the marketing side, to your point, is given us a lot of freedom to grow the group, in that we were building the marketing team on a brand new plot of land. So I'm the longest tenured marketer there, and I joined on March 30th. Everyone else is about a half year in or less. So that was an interesting experience, but to bulk up and build the team right away, we're 13 people, including me as we speak, with more recs we're hiring as we speak, to actually put plans in place that were longitudinal in nature versus just step by step, quarter by quarter. Let's just try to get this function up. Let's try to do this type of thing with a campaign. We can be much more LRP or long range planning in terms of our approach in marketing specifically, as well as the other functional groups. That's hopefully an overview of just the significance of a large drop like 100 million versus 10 million and what it can do for us in marketing in terms of planning ahead versus just being incremental.
It really is an opportunity. A lot of times the folks I speak with, they are tasked with doing world-class marketing, but with less than world-class assets, right? They don't have the budget, they don't have the people, they don't have the tools, and yet the expectations on them are to do the world-class work. So it seems like here they're putting their money where their mouths are, but that also creates even a greater duty. Like there's no excuses at this point.
That's right. And I think at risk of soapboxing for a minute, if someone came up to you or a listener or me and said, here's 100 million, what do you do with it? You just go buy houses and Ferraris, or do you invest? When I was coming up through the corporate ranks, even when I was not always in marketing, or if I was, I had a very stereotypical image of CMOs, and many of them, just a harsh word to say, were frauds. And what I mean by that is they were hurting the profession's brand image by making two mistakes that I committed to myself that if I was ever in that role, I wouldn't do that. Like I would actually try to help pad the positive image of marketing in B2B tech sector circles than hurt it. And the two damaging things that I saw repeated over and over and over, whether I was at large cap companies or pre-IPOs, was the CMO and his or her teams made no effort to learn the business or the product. It's a technical field that I'm in. This isn't selling bottled water or Nike basketball shoes. You have to understand the product so you can market. And then secondly, we were always viewed in any capacity, B2C, B2B, what have you, as a cost center, which we in many cases are. However, when you're a cost center and viewed stereotypically as a bunch of liberal artists gone wild spending money and you don't know your business or product, that's why the lifespan of CMOs and VPs of marketing is so short versus say a CFO or heads of product, CTOs alike. And I started realizing that marketing is hurting itself more than helping it because they have this constant churn at all ranks because they're making no effort to learn the product or the business and be able to apply it to sensible campaigns that drive the demand and the business forward. Now, plop $100 million in front of you, and that can exacerbate that problem even more. So from my perspective, I am a service provider. We as marketers at any level are service providers to the business. We are service providers to sales. Too many times CMOs try to be the smartest man in the room. Usually they were men. And I started realizing there has to be more of a humility and a service-oriented nature where I call it MAS to play off the cloud acronyms, but it's marketing as a service to sales and ultimately the business to make sure I'm giving them what they need versus getting in fights about who's the smartest guy in the room. So if I can prove that I understand and have the acumen on the business and the product, and I can actually prove that from a cost center perspective, I'm managing the cost structure as an owner, as if it was my own money, as if I was the founder, would I actually spend that much on digital or would I actually curtail it a bit and be smarter? If I can act like an owner on the cost structure side, and then also understand the business and product, you can give me $1 zillion or $1, I'm going to actually be responsible with it and earn the respect of my peers and the business around me that we're actually doing the right thing for the company versus just spending money like water, hoping we're doing the right thing. But especially when you're in a pre-IPO where a lot of investments happening very rapidly over the years and you got to show the ROI on it, you don't have the acumen, you're not going to be able to.
I think it's a really important point. I've worked actually within a startup that was very well funded. The CEO was irresponsible in the way he spent money, and it took the VC some time to remove him because of personal relationships, unfortunately for the VC. But I saw up close the danger that having more money than you need can create in the hands of people that are not thoughtful and people that don't have good plans, like realistic plans. Even in this small startup, wasn't 100 million, but it was real money. The risk to the business and the investor of leadership that wasn't thoughtful with the use of the money. And clearly the goal is to use the money for transformative purpose, but it's purposeful. I think that's really where you're going here, is marketing needing to be purposeful and accountable.
That's absolutely right. I mean, one of my mentors growing up, she once told me business first, practitioner second, but I try to live by it as much as I can. And I hire by it as well. Like if people have that mindset, then they usually do pretty well, in my opinion. I don't care if you're a financial accountant or a salesperson or an engineer or an HR practitioner or a marketer. If you understand the business and go business first in your logic and your decision making, and then practitioner second, you're dangerous. You become a competitive advantage against any other peer of yours in the competitive landscape. So I like to think like, yeah, my teams are fighting on the sales front against their sales counterparts in our competitive landscape. Our product guys are geeking out harder than the other product guys at the competitor next door, hopefully. But I fight the CMO and his or her team at the competitors too. And I don't like losing. When I evaluate a job and I evaluate a competitive landscape, when you see their marketing is liberal arts only versus business plus liberal arts, either in their messaging, their design, their brand persona engagement, their campaigns, I start licking my chops, because if I can actually go business first, marketing second against a guy or gal who's just doing marketing liberal arts, game over. Go to Vegas, Macau, or Dubai, put money on me, it's over. It's an arrogant thing to say, but my team, I would stack them up against any team that way, because they're usually going to make the right decisions to be more shrewd at driving better results.
I don't know if I'd call it arrogant so much as driven. I mean, you're saying, hey,
Sure.
I want to succeed. And as a leader, I need to show my people what success and winning looks like. For a long time, I've felt that marketing needs to balance the art and the science. We need really great design, and design thinking needs to pervade what we do in business, but we need to back it up. And I think the successful marketing leaders have the ability to create beautiful narrative, create beautiful design that's visual, but they back it up with the ability to drive the revenue in partnership with sales. I'd love to just sort of let you riff on that a little bit, because I think your perspective on the relationship between marketing and sales and how to succeed in that endeavor is really important.
I kind of alluded to it, but to be more direct, the fundamental premise in my mind, when you think about the relationship between a sales and a marketing organization, is trust. Sales and marketing naturally have an inherent conflict with each other. They're church and state, they're yin yang. They're supposed to be a competing force against each other to keep each other honest. Too many times I've seen, and I was once a victim of this, doing it myself, where you go into a boardroom and you present your numbers, and then the CRO presents his or her numbers, and they're completely perpendicular to each other, to where no matter who's right, you're both wrong and you both look like clowns. And then they start saying, what the heck are you guys doing together? No wonder we missed our numbers. Or, great, we made our numbers, but how much more revenue yield could we have gotten if you guys were actually aligned? No matter which way you cut it, that lack of alignment is embarrassing on both fronts, no matter where the finger pointing is. So the first fundamental atomic unit to me has always been establish trust from the outset with the sales force, not just the company or your CEO, but the sales force. And that's where the whole MAS, or marketing as a service provider thinking or mindset or humility comes in, where I'm not trying to be the smartest man in the room. I'm not trying to be the highest paid guy in the room. I'm just trying to say, how do I help this sales team actually hit its number? If they hit their number, we all are great, right? Where everyone's happy. So for me, where I've seen problems, if the trust isn't there, then it's not going to be a healthy relationship, and you're going to have competing interests and a misalignment that can hold your business back, even if you're making numbers, because you could probably have made higher numbers than what you did. The fundamental premise for me is trust. And if you can establish that through a service-minded service provider approach, where, hey, you need this? Sure, we'll give it to you. Hey, you need this? Can I consult with you first? Maybe it wouldn't work that way, but if we approach it this way, it would. You trust me on it? Yeah, okay, I'm going to deliver it to you. And you hit your deadlines as an execution machine maniacally, then sales and the exec team don't even have to worry about the integrity of marketing. It then becomes all the lead gen that they're doing and the demand gen they're pushing through the pipeline. How can we then double down on the sales execution and make sure that our win-loss and the efficiency of our deal cycles is such that we want it to be? That's what's happening in Behavox right now. The brokers between Nabil Ibrahim, who is the CRO, and I'm the CMO. I hope if you asked him, he'd agree. Couldn't be stronger.
This is really fascinating, because the periodical literature about sales and marketing not aligning talk about the MQL, SQL disconnect. And that's not really where it's at, right? It's really at the very top level of the organization, not connecting. And therefore, this cascades down the organization.
It sets the tone culturally, to your point, top down. They inherit the personality of their leaders, and it could be good, bad, or ugly, but that's very true. And if they see the brokerage, you start seeing the marketing, the sales team start complimenting each other. They don't feel like they have to antagonize or attack each other because there is a cascading multiplier effect for sure.
That's beautiful insight for folks that see this issue. It's really a symptom, right? I try to be a true diagnostician and say, okay, I see something. Is it the problem or the symptom? And perhaps if people are debating the quality of the marketing generated opportunities, there's trouble higher up. And actually the leaders on both organizations need to get involved to reset their relationships so they can co-present to their teams, hey, we are in this together. We need to work together to arrive at the best fit marketing to support what we're trying to do in sales.
The shared metrics part of things is important, shared KPIs and metrics. And there are two that I use to varying degrees of success, depending on the brokerage you have with not just your CRO, but the CEO. They have to be bought into this too, but it helps disarm the tension or potential conflict between the two teams of sales and marketing, which is as follows. I don't care about vanity metrics, about CPLs and dwell time on a website. Those are ingredients in a larger recipe, which is, did you hit your revenue number or not, dude? So if you reverse engineer it out of the revenue goal and go top down versus bottoms up on your prioritization of metrics and KPIs that are important to you, there are two fundamental ones that force and straddle the sales and marketing teams to actually present it together, which is as follows. Number one, for every lead gen dollar I spend, how much pipeline, SQL, pipeline did I generate? And what is that ratio? Is it $1 to 12, $1 to 18, $1 to 15, whatever that groove is you want to be in, you set your stretch goals from there and then try to beat it. And then secondly is for every lead gen dollar I spend, how much revenue do I actually get? But whatever those metrics are vary depending on whether you're a brand leader, a large cap, a small cap, what sector you're in. Are you tech sector or different types of sector? Are you in third place in the market share standings or are you in first? It's going to vary based on the competitive landscape and market share standings. But whatever those KPIs and metrics end up being, and you set the stretch goal off of it, you can't say, hey, you didn't give me good leads if you're sales, because your sales execution part of the pipeline that came through on the SQL side that you're slowing down on or whatever, because those leads were good if they're SQLs, you're not coming through on that. Or I can't tell sales, how come we didn't close that deal if we're sharing the metric of lead gen all the way through SQL pipeline to revenue versus just, hey, I did my CPL metric, how come you didn't hit your revenue target? That makes no sense, breeds more tension, the trust dissipates, you have a sales and marketing issue, and now your CMO is out the door in a year and a half. So there's a cause and effect relationship that is preventative.
That's great insight. It makes a little more real, that idea of the shared vision. I want to move on to another topic we talked about because it's pretty near and dear to my heart, which was thought leadership. I really would love you to spend just a couple of minutes talking about what you're doing.
Thought leadership is jargonized as a term, so I'm going to try to be non-jargonized in this. I would say you can't be a market leader or aspire to be one without being a thought leader. And there's a difference between being a thought leader and a marketing thought leader. Let me explain. If I did a survey on security threats or risks or attacks, and you get like 57% of the respondents saying, yeah, I got hit by a virus or a worm, or yeah, I got hit by ransomware. And then they stop there. And then they say, now, do you want to buy my firewall? That's not thought leadership. That's marketing. Now, if I say 57% got hit by a virus or a rootkit or a ransomware attack or what have you, and then you ask, why did you get hit? I don't know could be an answer. My manager didn't give me the budget. We don't have a capable security team here. Our IT team is understaffed. Whatever the answers are, that qualitative why is now thought leadership, because you have now introduced a conversation into the marketplace, not just a bunch of numbers. Who cares? I mean, 57 could be good or bad. You just don't know. But you're asking the 20 question why to get to the root cause of it, which is we just didn't have the right budget and we don't know how to influence our management to get it. And we have to be reactive and get hit before we actually solve the security problem. So in that case study or use case, thought leadership becomes, how do I do something thought-provoking and drive a dialogue in the industry and own and command that dialogue to dictate behavior that is an aha moment to someone that has nothing to do with your brand, product, or company name. It's like, I get the awareness part of it. And now you're on the road to the sales cycle of awareness, evaluation, or consideration, and then purchase. So where I see thought leadership misused is when it gets called thought leadership and it's really a bunch of marketing that someone's going to look at and say, that is not objective and it's not academic. So yeah, whatever, you're just doing it for your own purpose. To give a little insight, I have this framework I use, and it works whether you're a PR guy all the way to a marketing leader, which is, if you imagine a four square, and each of the squares has thought leadership, product, customer, and partner. And if you want to add a fifth one on top of it, which is just your company, go ahead. But for the sake of argument, imagine those four. If I were to ask any marketer or myself, in your integrated marketing campaigns, not digital campaigns, integrated marketing campaigns across the entire marketing mix, tell me the top 3 to 5 tactics on all four of them. I will bet money in my space, B2B tech, it's all weighted in product. They may say, well, I'm on the customer when I'm putting a press release with this customer win we just had. Who wrote the quote from the customer? My PR marketing guy did. That's not customer marketing. That's product marketing. The thought leadership portion is usually a bunch of stuff that's product marketing that they think is thought leadership, but it's not. What I am doing at my current company, and I've done at previous ones, big and small, is I will institute an annual branded study that has multiple chapters or launches to it. Not a one-day, one-hit wonder, but it will own the night for maybe 4 to 6 months to own the industry dialogue that influences what I was talking about earlier, the awareness building, that has nothing to do with my product or company. It does not actually commercially name drop it at all. And it's about some kind of behavioral issue that will set the table to actually buy the solution that you can product mark second. So it's the subject ahead of the predicate. So in the past, I've done studies, for example, what are the security risks of remote workers? And how does that impact the risk of a company? It's not, hey, did you buy a firewall to solve it? It is literally, why did you do that when my boss wasn't looking over my shoulder? Why did you hijack your neighbor's wireless? The why answers then start saying, how do you get around it? Let's sell this VPN to you, for example, or this mobile security to you. And that's done in a product launch after that whole mini campaign on thought leadership ends. So now you just built for almost 2 to 3 quarters a mega campaign versus just saying, I have a product launch with a press release and a survey that leads to my firewall, one day, one hit wonder. Now what am I going to do for the other 364 days?
Getting a C-level executive to pay attention to a vendor requires getting kind of out of your own shadow, right? You have to be willing to look to the issues that matter to them.
Yes.
To make your organization relevant. We've been practicing thought leadership for a very long time in a similar way. We believe that it's imperative to raise up awareness of issues that might create opportunity for your category.
Yes.
And then if you can create interest and need for your category, you could become one of the beneficiaries, especially for new products, new offers, smaller companies. They have to sort of seed the ground.
It's basically an entree to creating demand. Agreed.
It's permission, right? It's you need permission. I certainly see in the tech startups, even those that have a lot of momentum, they don't look up into the C-suite in a thoughtful way. How do you get the $1 million or $2 million sale as a smaller firm? So if you want to get General Motors to buy 2 or 3 million in ARR from you, how are you going to have permission to even approach that sale?
That's right.
I think there's a rationale for thought leadership also in that you want to be able to have the enterprise-wide adoption. You need to be able to talk to the enterprise leadership in a way that they're going to appreciate. And is my note correct that you actually still do stuff in print in your thought leadership?
Yeah. Take the study example I was just giving. From an account-based marketing standpoint, we'll print that and then direct mail it to the offices of our accounts and contacts that we're trying to influence directly. We'll even customize it in our ABM campaigns for their needs. And then I've been at some companies where we've monetized it to where you can take your professional services team, either for new logo acquisition and or expansion, and say, why don't we run this study inside of your organization? And then we can see if this is even a problem, which it will be. And then once they see it themselves, they say, oh, damn, we didn't realize that. And now they're saying, how do we solve it? Now, to your point, you've gotten the permission, you've earned the right now to peddle your product at that point. And that's the 1-2 punch.
The recipe here, if you will, is we do a cross-industry study of a set of business problems, and then we can bring that into an organization and replicate the study, but only within the walls of that prospect.
That's right. It doesn't get publicized. I won't name the names, but I can tell you right now, it's a bulge bracket bank, the largest telco in Spain, and one of the largest Swiss banks. Just those 3 examples, multi-million-dollar deals. Now, this was when I was at a larger cap company, just based off that. So you can't tell me that marketing is a cost center when I can actually dream that up for a salesperson and give them another meeting and a touch point where they don't even have to sell. We're coming in as a consultant and academically, professorially saying, here's what we're finding in the industry, but here's what we're seeing. And it's something that we're having conversations with all of your peers. We just wanted to share it with you. Are you interested? Heck, give it to them for free. Because at the end of the day, the intel is going to show them they need a product and can't live a lie. And then you get your multi-million-dollar deal or whatever your average deal size is, respectively. Game over, you hit your number.
I want to touch on one last topic, the organizational design. You have this really beautiful expression of the organization needs to grow into its people. Mm-hmm. And I thought if we could just spend a minute or 2 on that and then land our conversation, that would be great.
Yeah, so for people like me who are at small embryonic companies, that in 3 to 5 years, if we do the right thing, we're going to be vastly different, vastly more mature and larger and scale more. I believe you can't look at it in the present. You always have to look at it in the future tense when you start planning your org about 3 to 5 to 7 years out. And let's use me as an example. If you have a company that's sub 100 million in revenue and your head count's 200, 500, 300 people, eventually you're going to be 1,000, 2,000 people and all that. I'm going to hire people that have been there, done that at the 100 to 250 to 500 million, even the $1 billion revenue marks, so that when we grow big, they can take the hello, my name is sticker off and say, I've been there. We're on the 13-week clock as a public company now. We know what the process should be. I've seen product launches at this scale or campaigns at this scale now that we are global versus just domestic. And there is no training or development needed. If anything, they're doing that to the other folks in the company. So what I like to do is hire ahead, or to your point, hire where the company grows into the people versus grows away. Because if I hire a bunch of people who are great at startups in garages, and then you get past 50 people and they don't know how to do something with more rigor or process, then it's going to actually hinder our company from ever growing, because the people grow your company and they only know how to get you to 50 mil or 50 people in size or what have you. The other tenet I would say real quick, Ken, is I think people would agree with this, in some cases begrudgingly, that there are 2 types of people you can hire. There's the people who do, and those are the people you just say, hey, push this button, they push this button, they execute. And then there's people who think and do, and I hire think and do. Think and do is not just a VP having to strategize a plan or ideate and rationalize plans, and then they have their minions go execute. A think and do could be an entry-level marketing manager. At all levels, can you think and rationalize and problem solve? And if you can, I want you on my team, because I can't be hub and spoke and micromanage everyone and solve all your problems. Now, executives get paid to solve problems. That's their number 1 job, then practitioner second, or business second, practitioner third. I like to groom and hire people who have the mindset of, I'm going to be resourceful and solve problems versus I can't do anything. I paralyze myself until the CMO tells me what to do. So if you hire the think and doers versus the doers at all levels, and the company grows into them, you're going to be able to grow at scale.
Yeah, so I think that's a great place to say thank you. I mean, we covered a lot of topics. I think there are a lot of levers for people to grab onto and perhaps turn in their own businesses. And if folks wanted to reach out to you to take the conversation further, how would they find you?
Probably the best way is on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn power user. They just hit me up there. I'm happy to have conversations with them and meet. That's usually the best front door.
And the firm's website is?
www.behavox.com. That's BEHAVOX.com.
Awesome, Neil. Thank you so much. Really grateful for the time we shared together. People can reach out to me also on LinkedIn. I'm Ken Lempit, KenLempit on LinkedIn. My firm's website is austinlawrence.com. Thanks again, Neil. It was great to speak with you today and hope to catch up with you again soon.
Feelings mutual. Have a great year. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the SaaS Backwards Podcast, brought to you by Austin Lawrence Group. We're a growth marketing agency that helps SaaS firms reduce churn, accelerate sales, and generate demand. Learn more about us at www.austinlawrence.com. You can email Ken Lempet at kl@austinlawrence.com about any SaaS marketing or customer retention subject. We hope you'll subscribe, and thanks again for listening.